Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Noah, and in this video I want to share with you what my biggest fear in life is. As always, I hope you can take something away from this video, and with that being said, let's get right into it. So I think there's quite a few things that we as humans can fear throughout our life. Spiders, death, water, deep water, homeless people with machetes, and so on. You know, there's a lot of different things that we can fear. But this one fear, I think, really hits home for me, and I wanted to share it with you today. As we all know, there's a finite amount of time that we are able to live here, right? On Earth or space, wherever we end up. Our time as of right now is relatively limited. And although with medical technologies, medical advances, and newfound knowledge that's kind of making its way into mass media, there's a general consensus on what we need to do to prolong this time, right? To enjoy many, many years of life here on Earth. And, you know, although there is a certain amount of randomness where, you know, tragedy can happen, right? No matter how good you take care of yourself, you could unfortunately have a relatively shorter life compared to someone just kind of going through the motions. And I think the biggest fear that I have, at least right now, is going through, you know, all of these years that life has to offer, right? I don't know the exact average of life expectancy, but generally speaking, going through all of these years and not knowing what's actually out there in the world. I think it's really easy for a lot of individuals, and the majority of individuals, to kind of go through life just as is, right? So you're raised, you're a kid, you have fun. You get a little bit older, you get your first job, and then you go to high school, and then you go to college, and then you settle in a job, you maybe find someone, you have a kid, and you still work, watch them kind of grow up, and then you get to a point where you retire and enjoy some different things in retirement until you get a little bit too old to do anything, right? And then your family takes care of you, you get put in a home. I mean, it just kind of depends on the family, but that is kind of the general consensus, or I think that's what happens quite a bit. And although I don't think there's anything intrinsically wrong with this route, one of the fears, and my main fear that I have right now, is going through all of these years of potential and not doing as much as I want to, or not doing as much as out there. And it is important to note that there's no way that you're going to be able to do everything in your life. There are too many things to do, but the biggest thing for me is going through life and not knowing what other cultures are like, right? Not being able to visit, a lot of different countries and kind of immerse myself in their culture to see what it's like on that side of the world. One of the other things is not being able to take on endeavors, right? To try new things, to go outside of the norm of, just working, coming home, eating dinner, watching a movie, and then doing the same thing over and over again. There are so many different things to try. There's so many different hobbies to pick up, sports to try, different physical endeavors, artistic endeavors to try, that it is extremely sad for me if I would have to go through life and not be able to explore at least a decent amount of those. And I think this is kind of a shame, and this is why it's a big fear of mine, is because there is so much to learn in the world, and like I said, we'll never know, right? We'll never know everything, and that's just something we need to accept. But I think in the normal routine of things that's kind of seen generally, there's a lot to be desired, and I'm at the point right now where I am chasing these new lessons, these new interpretations of other cultures and interpretations of the world itself, to try to augment my own self, right? My own understanding of the world around me, to try to be a better person, to just try to know more about the world. So, but when the time does come that I am not able to do anything, I can sit back confidently and say, I tried everything I wanted to do, or at least a lot of things, 90% of the things on my bucket list, or 95%. I know a lot about different cultures. I saw this, I experienced this, and I think that's one thing where, if you if you don't get to that point, I think it would be relatively depressing in later years, because you're going to sit back with all of these regrets, all of these things that you would have wanted to do had you kind of known about all of these things that the world has to offer. And of course, like many of my videos, I do want to try to put a personal finance spin on it, and that's kind of where I want to get into next. So you guys know what my fear is of not knowing a lot about the world that we live in, not knowing a lot about other cultures, not being able to explore time for your own creative desires, for your own hobbies, and so on. And I think personal finance generally has a huge role to play in this. And I've alluded to this, I mentioned it in many of my videos. That's kind of the point in this channel primarily. But personal finance, getting your finances in check, learning a little bit about how money works on a kind of on a domestic basis, right? Knowing, what income is going to get you this, knowing how what irresponsible spending is, what responsible saving and investing is, I think is truly the first step that people can take to not have this fear, or try to ameliorate this fear in their life of not being able to do certain things. Because having this kind of preparation and knowing that you are on a solid financial track, not only for the future, but in the moment right now, to be able to put aside money for these different trips, these different endeavors, these different hobbies that you might want to do, is ultimately what's going to get you to the point where you're going to be able to check 95% of your bucket list items off of your list prior to exiting the world as we know it. And there's so many different ways to kind of augment your own understanding of what it takes to have a specific type of lifestyle, to take on all of these new endeavors, not only right now, but in your later years as well, in retirement. But the first thing that you need to do is start, right? Nothing is going to happen if you don't do your first Google search, right, of, what is finance? What is personal finance? Maybe you, go on YouTube and look for videos like mine where I talk about more realistic financial situations, and how what might be best, the best practices would be in certain financial situations to get, a certain end result. The possibilities are really, really endless. Everybody's circumstances are different. Everybody, despite the fact that we have a median income, a lot of people in the same annual income range, everybody's circumstances are different, right? They have different financial obligations, they have different hobbies, they have different faults, right? Different vices. Everybody is guilty of this, I think, to a certain extent. But the first thing that you need to do is actually put some effort into it, right? Put some effort into finding out about, what type of money you're going to need for endeavor 1, endeavor 2, an early retirement, a retirement with a certain amount of money, a retirement at age 60 or 60 versus 65. There's a lot of things to consider, and I don't have, unfortunately, the time to get into all of them in this video. But the first thing that you need to do, if you don't want to have this same fear that I'm expressing in this video of not doing enough, by the time you get to your later years, the first thing I think people need to do is get their finances on track. So there you have it. That is my current biggest fear that I have in life, is not being able to take on certain endeavors, not being able to work on my own creative aspirations, not being able to explore or extensively explore the world around me. And of course, I wanted to share the first step that I think people need to take in order to not have this fear, and that, of course, is getting your personal finances on track. But of course, I want to hear from the viewers as well. What is one fear that you all have that you're trying your best not to bring into fruition? Please let me know in the comment section below. I would love to hear your thoughts. As always, if you've stuck along this far in the video, I want to thank you so much for your time, and of course, happy financing.